Don't look now, but Hunter Greene has entered the Cy Young contender chat. We're talking about the Reds ace and a series victory against those dirty birds from the Lou on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr, his name is Steve Offenbaker, and we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans. And we've been podcasting about these Cincinnati Reds for a combined 12 years. Thank you so much for making us part of your day. Locked On Reds is, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And we want to thank you for making us a part of your day because we want to bring Locked On Reds to you, make it accessible. We're talking baseball, man. We're having fun. The Reds are having fun. They're beating up on the Cardinals, the stinking dirty birds from the Lou, like Steve said. And like their city edition jerseys say. And quite frankly, they did so with ace, with Cy Young hopeful. And he's got a really good argument for it. We're going to talk about why. Hunter Greene just dominated the Cardinals on Tuesday. I also want to talk about some great comments. Barry Larkin on the Bally Sports broadcast had an amazing, it was a pseudo rant. I wouldn't call it a rant. Like, he wasn't angry. He was just imparting wisdom in the sixth inning. And he said a lot of really good things. We're going to get into that. And later on in the show, there's a new sports betting strategy that I have for you. It's pretty simple. I stumbled onto it. We'll talk about
It's
that.
a lock. It is a lock.
A little bit later. A little bit later on.
Stone cold lock.
A little bit later on in today's show. Before we get to all that, I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. And Steve, where we want to start today is with the absolutely, it's really beginning to become rock solid Cy Young resume that Hunter Greene is putting forth. I mean, if you look at Baseball Reference, he leads the National League in WAR. He has had a fantastic season where it comes to limiting home runs, which everyone coming into the season was just like, well, he can't do that. So, how can he be an ace when he doesn't limit the damage on the long ball? He's doing that and so much more.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because there is going to be a population in the comment section that's going to come at us with the receipts, right? When we were talking about Hunter Greene was not the ace of this team. It's why Frankie Montas was the opening day starter, part motivator, part hopefully getting Hunter to recognize he had work to do. But every time we talked about Hunter Greene, we said what he wasn't, and then we said what he could be and what he needed to do to get there. What has happened between when we had those conversations and now is Hunter Greene has done those things that we said he needed to do in order to achieve ace status. He has transitioned from thrower to pitcher. He is out there as a bona fide Major League Baseball pitcher, mixing his pitches, keeping hitters off balance, doing the things that need to be done. The results are right there in black and white. The numbers that he is putting up, he has transitioned into full-blown ace. There's no question about it.
And he was asked about, what he felt about that. Is he the ace of this staff? And he had a great answer for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's for, the people to decide. I've already made up my mind of being one, but I feel like my process has been solid. I've been as consistent as I could be, but there's still a lot of work to put in, and the season's not over yet.
Nobody knows Hunter Greene better than Hunter Greene, and nobody has higher expectations for Hunter Greene than Hunter Greene. I mean, he took that opening day skip. He took that personally. That whole Michael Jordan meme from his 30 for 30, it was like, I took that personally. Like, that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what we wanted him to do because he has pitched so phenomenally well this year, Steve. I mean, we're talking about an under 3 ERA. He is flirting with 2.5 on the ERA this year. He has a whip, a walks plus hits per innings pitched, that is absolutely phenomenal, limiting the base runners. That's basically what that stat infers, is that's walks and hits per inning. So base runners per inning, it's barely over one. And we saw it in this game, even in the fifth inning. The fifth inning, he really ran into some trouble. He allowed a walk, got the next guy to a 3-ball, no strike count. And you're thinking, oh boy, are the wheels going to fall off here? Because the Reds had a 2-0 lead at this point. And you're thinking, is this where we start to see the Cy Young resume unravel? Because quite frankly, as awesome as he is, there's still that negative Cincinnati brain that we have, but he didn't, because he buckled down and he made the pitches that he needed to make, and he absolutely got back on track. His only blemish was the solo home run he allowed in the 7th, and even after that, he followed it up by going 1-2-3.
It's funny because I think the Hunter Greene last year would have tried to throw his way out of the stumble in the 5th. He would have just tried to blow the ball by everybody. And that's the difference. We saw him go out and pitch through it, pitch around it, get it done, and live to pinch another inning. And those are the differences. You start to look for what's different between then and now. What things is Hunter Greene doing that makes you say, that's not who he was last year? That's not what we saw. That was a key moment that you can point to and say, Hunter Greene of old, Hunter Greene of as recently as April of this baseball season would have tried to just throw fastballs by guys and hope for the best. He's not pitching that way anymore. I also like what he had to say there, Jeff. One of the things that Hunter has been since day one arriving in Cincinnati is he's been open and honest about who he is. He's been open and honest when he has deficiencies, when he recognizes there are things to work on. When there's a problem, he talks about the solution. And I like when he says things like he said in that clip that we just played, where, I made up my mind. I'm going to be one of them. I may not be the only one, bring his teammates along for the ride. I like that. And I like that he said there's still work to do. Pitching in Major League Baseball is an ever evolving. You're never done learning. You're never done getting better. And I like that early on, even though he's having tremendous success, he's talking about that. He recognizes it. He's not going to settle in. I like that fire. I like that drive.
And he really expounds upon that a little bit later on in this interview, because he's done a great job of staying healthy this year. He's pitched a ton. I mean, as every time he steps on the mound for the rest of the season, he will just increase his highest number of innings pitched in a single season for his career, because he's well past that mark already. He was asked, what it took to get ready for this. And kind of like what you said, like the daily motions of the MLB Ocean. And he had a really good answer for it. This is a minute long, but I think it's worth it.
A lot of work in the off season, being able to build my pitch, or not my pitch count, my endurance, and just my process throughout the week. I've been able to recover a lot better this year, and that had a lot to do with my work in the off season and continuing to stay consistent and not get complacent during the season. It's easy. It's a long season. You get tired. You do the same routine, the same exercises, the same work day in and day out. It's easy to slip on those and think that even if you're doing well, thinking that, hey, I'm fine, I'll be okay this week. I did well last week, and if you get into that habit, it just snowballs. And I feel like in the past, there were times where I would do that, and that's just age. That's being young and not understanding the length of a season, and it's just being able to learn from those experiences and being able to make those adjustments.
It's funny. I was talking about Andrew Abbott's last start on yesterday's podcast, and I say, he went through his hardest stretch of the season, his 5 bad starts. Hunter Greene has not had a period of time this season that we're just like, okay, we got to endure this, we got to get through this, and then he's going to be good Hunter Greene again. He's just been good Hunter Greene like ever since April.
I really love listening to him talk about his game and talk about pitching. It reminds me a lot of when we would listen to Joey Votto talk about hitting and just how cerebral he was about everything. I think Hunter's that same way about his body and his workouts and pitching and being a professional pitcher. I really do love what I'm hearing from him, Jeff. I think that as good as he is right now, we probably haven't seen the ceiling yet. He's still a work in progress. He's not done getting better. He's going to continue to get better. And that, for everybody else in baseball, should be very, very scary.
And that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Like, he's got a lot more left to give this season, a lot more left to prove, because the Cy Young resume looks really, really good right now. But he's still got, 6, 7, 8 starts left to really hammer it home. And we're looking forward to seeing exactly how that goes.
All right, Jeff, as fun as it is talking about Hunter Greene, and we could keep doing that for the rest of the show without a problem, I want to get into some comments that Barry Larkin had on yesterday's broadcast, because they were wise words, and I wonder if he inadvertently said a little bit more than he really meant to say. We're going to talk about Barry's comments coming up next.
As we roll through the end of the summer here in Southwest Ohio and wherever you may live, there's still going to be plenty of time to get outside and enjoy those outdoor activities. But don't forget to stay hydrated. Liquid IV came in the clutch for me when I was golfing out this past weekend. Tell you what, had a really nice shot that I hit up the hill, blind shot, was able to chip it in from about 65 yards away. It was a lot of fun, and I stayed hydrated with Liquid IV, because every single packet of Liquid IV hydrates you just as well as 2 whole bottles of water. Plus, they've got great flavors too. So when you mix it in with your water, you actually make it taste better and you make it hydrate better. You literally double the power of your water with Liquid IV. Check out Liquid IV today. Go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout for 20% off your first order. Again, that's liquidiv.com and the promo code MLB for 20% off your first order. And as we move through to the end of the season, the best way to enhance your baseball watching experience is always with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. And it's so easy to see why they've gotten to that ranking, because you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks in your entry, because you put together 2 to 6 picks in your entry and watch the cash roll in. Because all you got to do, pick your favorite players, pick your favorite stats, and click more, or you click less. It's really that easy. And with this chance for the Reds to get a sweep on the Cardinals coming up here tonight, Prize Picks is going to be your way to take advantage of that, with Elly De La Cruz, with Spencer Steer, Ty France maybe hit more on the homers there. Check them out at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the promo code, all lowercase, LOCKEDONMLB, for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's right. You can put $20 in, type in the promo code, all lowercase, LOCKEDONMLB, and Prize Picks is going to give you another $20 just like that. Download the Prize Picks app today, because all you got to do is pick more or pick less. It's that easy.
Thanks for making Locked On Reds your first listen today and every day. Now, for your second listen, head over to Locked On MLB Podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the Major League Baseball playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it covered every single day on the Locked On MLB Podcast. Available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Jeff, Barry Larkin had some wise words. Barry Larkin, he said some things in the broadcast booth last night, and if you were listening closely, if you're willing to listen between the lines, he might have said more than he meant to say, and then he added to what he had to say to maybe throw us off the track. But let's get into this. Let's get into what he had to say, Jeff. He's talking about these 2024 Cincinnati Reds, and I think you've got the quote ready to go there. Go ahead and tell us what Barry had to say.
Yeah, and just for a little bit of context, this was the bottom of the 6th inning. The Reds had just started batting, and he was just kind of talking about the state of the team. This is almost a direct quote. It wasn't something I was able to copy and paste or something like that, but I watched back the bottom of the 6th just to get this right. He said, quote, "These guys are supremely talented and they need someone to push them, someone to instill in them the killer mentality that you can't accept being a 500 baseball team. 500 baseball is not winning baseball. You can't accept mediocrity. And I thought it was funny too, Steve, and that was something that I remember from the quote, and I forgot to write in our notes there, but the whole like 500 baseball is not winning baseball. Like he gave a pause there for a minute, and John Sadak was like, literally. It's like, yeah, like this is, and John had really set this up, and he kind of teed Barry up with this, and Barry just knocked this out of the park because he said, he was like, since May 3rd, the Reds have not been 500 since May 3rd. If they win tonight, they sweep the Cardinals tonight, they'll be one game under 500. They have been either one game under 500 or 6 games, somewhere in between there, since May 3rd. They have never gotten that far back, but they've also not gotten back to 500 either. And that's really where the mediocrity talk came in. And I love that Barry said this, because this is where the whole just frustration with this team comes from, because you don't have to squint that hard to see them making a run. But you also have to squint really hard to look past some of the other deficiencies that have caused them to be where they are. And all of those deficiencies seem to point in one direction. And so do Barry's quotes, as much as he tried to dance around not saying the guy's name.
Right. Well, the question you have to ask yourself, is he talking about a need for a veteran leadership type of player to light a fire under the rest of the team? Or is he looking square at the manager's office and talking about David Bell? I look at these comments and I think they're about David Bell. And the reason for that is you have to ask yourself about Barry Larkin's career. And I know that later on, and we're going to get to the fact that Barry Larkin did talk about a player being that guy for him. And I think that he realized he had said too much and was trying to spin it and rein it in a little bit. Because if you look at the managers that Barry Larkin had in his career, he came up when Pete Rose was the manager of this team. And loved Pete Rose, hate Pete Rose. Pete Rose hated losing. Pete Rose did not accept the mentality of we'll just squeak on by and hope to get somewhere good. He wanted them to go out there and punish and pummel every opponent that they had. That's the guy that Pete Rose was as a manager. Then he had Lou Piniella, who was very much the same guy. And not only was he very much the same guy, he came in and he demanded excellence from this team and pushed them wire to a World Series in his first year here. Other managers that Barry Larkin played for, Davey Johnson, old school baseball manager, did not accept mediocrity. Jack McKeon, old school baseball manager, did not accept mediocrity. Who's in this dugout right now? David Bell, who comes to the microphone each and every day, win, lose, or draw, and says in a mumbly voice, the team is playing very, very well, and we're just need to turn a corner, and we're very, very good, and we're almost there, and the guys are playing very, very well. That is every single David Bell press conference. I think this was about David Bell. Now, to be fair, Barry Larkin did say, Eric Davis was that guy for me, talking about the guy that lit a fire. He saw my talent and made sure to push me and tell me not to accept being a 500 ball player. That might be true to an extent, but I think this was about David Bell. I think this is about the culture around this team right now being willing to be the team that might just sneak on in hashtag. That's what I think Barry was talking about.
And kudos to David Bell's media coach, whoever that might be, or if that's just the PR folks in the PR office for the Reds, because David Bell made no mention of we're competing, we're close, or we're almost there, nothing like that. Because I was totally ready to clip that and throw it in here, although I could have just went back to an earlier game and thrown that in there because he says it a lot. That's why we have an impression of David Bell. You and I both have an impression of David Bell saying that because we hear it a lot. And that is really where a lot of folks have just become so disenchanted with where the Reds are right now, because the expectations are high, and they should be high. The talent on this team is good. As much as it's unproven, there's a lot of talent, and there's a lot of things are starting to go right. Elly is becoming a superstar. Hunter Greene is becoming an ace. You've got some other supporting cast that are starting to show a little bit of life, and hopefully that they will continue to show that life as we move forward to the end of the season. But there just seems to be a feeling that they come into the dugout after they make a dumb bonehead play, or they get thrown out on the base paths, or somebody airmails a throw into the stands or something like that. They come into the dugout and they have a powwow, a little bit of kumbaya, and saying, you know what, it's all right, man, we're all right, we're gonna get them tomorrow. yeah, we're done here. This is fine. We're good. Stop it. You got to go out there and you got to beat the other player. Like, this is professional sports. What are we doing if we're not trying to win? And I feel like there is that, not necessarily mentality, because I'm not in the locker room. I couldn't tell you that. But there's certain things that happen on the ball diamond that don't seem to be addressed because we see them happen again.
Right. And I'm not a fool to think that David Bell is going to come out after one of those games and sit in front of the reporters and look in a camera and say, Elly De La Cruz is terrible. His defensive lapses at shortstop are unacceptable. I'm going to sit him down until he can learn how to field a ground ball. That's ridiculous. That's not what I'm talking about. But you don't come out after that same thing happened and talk about the sunshine and the kittens. You talk about the need for defensive improvements. You talk about, maybe, just maybe, Elly's putting in extra work and taking steps to get better, and we don't know about it because nobody has the backbone to come out and tell us what's going on within the managerial group of this team. Stop concealing information. Stop playing rainbows and sunshine and kumbaya, as you say, and hugging it out, and talk about what's really going on with this team. Because I think the thing that infuriates me the most is that they think that I think they're telling me the truth. And that is more insulting than anything David Bell has had to say over the course of this season.
Yeah, don't give me Fruit Loops and tell me it's steak, because I know what steak is. And that's really what it's felt like with a lot of different messaging that we've heard from them. And that it was just so refreshing to hear Barry talking about this. And like you said, maybe he went a bridge too far a little bit, thinking, I think he's like talking about the manager. And I don't think either. Like, I'll try to round this edge off a little bit for Barry by saying, I definitely don't think this was him saying I could do a better job. He's just saying he wants to see somebody else in there doing it. Like he understands what this team is doing. He understands what this team needs. He understands what this team has, and he wants to see it all work. And I appreciated that. And by the way, he did have another quote that he said a little bit later on in the game, because Elly made a fantastic play to get Mason Wynn on a nice little ground ball. He had to range over, grab in his glove, and throw, short arm throw to first base, because Mason Wynn is a speedy guy. And, Barry said it. He's playing a great shortstop. Literally, direct quote. So, fielding percentage people, I think of them like the Village people or something like that. Sit down. Stop telling me about fielding percentage. I don't care about that stat. That is at the top of statistics that don't matter.
For sure. I'd be interested to hear from the viewers and the listeners, Jeff. Jump in the comment section. Hit us up on Twitter X. Let us know what you think about Barry's comments. You think he was talking about the manager? Was he really just only talking about, an Eric Davis type veteran leadership presence? I'd love to hear from you guys, because maybe I'm wrong about this, but I was seeing big red flashing lights from this quote of, oh boy, finally somebody's calling out David Bell. But maybe it's just me hoping for something that's not there. I would love to hear from everybody in the comment section.
That would be intriguing. I would definitely love to see that. But I tell you this, I have learned something, and we've done this whole theme this week between you and me, and then me doing an episode yesterday of like the things that we're learning with this season. I have stumbled onto a great sports betting strategy for you, and we're going to tell you what it is coming up next. This summer, while you're watching your favorite member of the Reds get more hits, get more stolen bases, get more home runs, you can watch yourself get some more cash with Ibotta. Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies, toys, and more. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight that you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner that you've been craving. Join the over 50 million users to earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including all your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also the formula that keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights. There's so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. You can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. Also, make sure you check out some written content about your Cincinnati Reds over at CincinnatiRedsTalk.com. I'm writing over there. I have a piece up about how Hunter Greene should be seriously considered for the Cy Young Award, and so much more going on over there as well, including a couple of articles here recently talking about some different players who are doing good, some different players who are doing bad, which leads me to how we will finish today's show, Steve. This new betting system that I got. 2 words. Fade Jeff. Fade me, whatever it is that I'm talking about. Because if I have something good to say about a guy, he's about to hit a slump. And if I got something bad to say about a guy, he's about to come out of that slump. Because especially here recently, it's been super. I mean, honestly, everydayers will know. If you caught Tuesday's episode, you heard me bashing on Jeimer Candelario, saying that contract wasn't worth it, saying that you were right early on in the season. You were talking about, boy, I don't like Candelario. I was trying to steer you away from that, tell you to be patient. I was wrong about that. And then he goes off and he hits a 2-run home run. And I talked about Ty France a couple of, like last week. I was just like, why? What's the point of him? He's been hitting homers ever since. Just line them up. There's a bunch of different guys. When I talk bad about them, they go off. But also, you can kind of line up the guys that I'm like, man, I'm really impressed with this guy. I said the other week, Jonathan India, really looking good. He has hit some kind of slump, man. He is just not hitting the ball very well at all. I said Carson Spires, boy, I'm really intrigued by him. He's getting an opener tonight. Emilio Pagan is opening the game. They're both right-handed.
Who had that? Like, by the way, who had Emilio Pagan starting a game for the Reds in 2024 on their bingo card from spring training? Did anybody have it? Anybody? Not me. Listen, Jeff, you're not wrong about this. You know what's going to happen is we're going to start reverse psychologying this thing, and we're going to start saying the opposite of what we really think, and we're going to be the most hated commentators in all of Red Country because of the crazy things that we're going to be saying. But look, you knew with the rant, with what you had to say about Jeimer yesterday, he was absolutely, or 2 days ago, he was absolutely going to homer last night. It was going to happen. So, everybody should have jumped right over to FanDuel and hit that Jeimer Candelario to homer button because it was a stone cold lock. I feel like we should have Mo Edgar here to talk about this. We could develop a whole new betting system between Fade Jeff and locks of the night, and we'd all get rich. We would just all get rich. But look, here's the thing. I did want to talk a little bit about what you had to say, and because Candelario homered doesn't necessarily make what you had to say wrong. You look at that contract; it's $45 million over 3 years, has the potential to jump to something like $60 million over 4 if the option is exercised.
$18 million club option for 2027. 18,
which I just really don't see that happening.
Not right now.
that's neither here nor there. You look at this contract and you look backwards in time, and you're absolutely right. You look back and you see the press conferences held by Nick Krall that say there's not room for Joey Votto. There's not at bats for Joey Votto. There's not an opportunity to keep the decision. And then is done. And I think Joey being here, you can't point to him being injured this year, because if he had been with the Reds, he wouldn't have rolled his ankle in the Blue Jays dugout. So you can't point to that. So the things you had to say were not wrong. I think the real answer is somewhere in the middle from where I started and where you were at the time about who Jeimer really is. Maybe this is just a down year. Problem is, we're going to see a whole lot more of them. That is not a contract the Reds are going to cut. Jeimer Candelario is here for 2 more years. So my hope is that he figures it out and comes a little bit more of that guy you saw in May, that you told me was coming when I was at my wit's end and at the end of my rope, because there was a stretch there. There was a stretch there after I lit him up. Boy, he showed me, but then he fell off again. So I hope that he's that guy. Can he be that guy?
See, and there it is. You've got my positive brain churning. I remember that in his career, splits wise, he really rakes in September. So, we got a shot to.
Here we go. We're doing the same thing over again.
Yeah, I know. But we'll stop that. But I will say this: I am mildly intrigued at the prospects of Ty France, simply because we've seen him now at Great American Ballpark a couple of times, just run into a couple. I think that his hitting style is going to play pretty well at Great American over the next couple of years. The Reds have him for the cheap. They have him for a few years. He can be part of the depth of this team. And you know what? If they don't want him, then they're not really out a bunch of money, and it's not going to be hard to get rid of him. They just do what the Mariners did and DFA him. But ultimately, both these guys are going to play into the future of this team. Once CES comes back, how does that all factor in and things like that? That's not going to be till next year, so we don't have to answer that question until 2025. Future problem, a problem for future us, or future Reds, not current Reds. But I am intrigued about him a little bit. And one last thing before we get out of here that I wanted to say, the Reds are telling us this, Steve. This is not me saying it. This is not you saying it. That Tony Santillan is now the fireman. He is now the guy that you bring out of the bullpen when you want to bridge that gap from the starter to the closer, which, by the way, we'll have to do a whole segment about this in the future, but how nice is it that we literally have one guy in between the starter and the closer? Like, that's how good the starting staff has been, but right now it looks like Tony Santillan has replaced Fernando Cruz.
Oh, it's the old days of baseball. And listen, to that news, to that comment, to that turn of events, I say it's about time. Fernando Cruz was a late bloomer, a late arrival. He's an old man in baseball terms. And I love what he was able to do for that little stretch there, but it went away, as things tend to go with relief pitchers more often than not. The Reds needed to make a switch. They made the switch. Hopefully Fernando Cruz can find his groove again. But in the meantime, yeah, Tony Santillan is your guy. I like it. And definitely love the fact that we're only talking about needing 2 pitchers to finish out the game.
Yes, that's a wonderful thing. And Diaz, by the way, great outing. Hope we see more of that from him. He changed his music, changed his walk-up music. Maybe that's what it is. Just needed different walk-up music. But that's where we're going to end today's podcast. Hopefully we are talking about a series sweep tomorrow on the show. Make sure that you're subscribed. If you're not an everydayer, that's how you become one. You subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Take us with you. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, you can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, so many different podcasting apps. We're on all of them. Take us with you there. But that's going to do it for us here today. Thanks as always for making Locked On Reds your first listen. Now make Locked On MLB your second listen as Sully gets you set for the Fall Classic every single day. That's Locked On MLB, just like Locked On Reds, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. Steve, what can folks expect from you and me?
We're going to keep monitoring the broadcasts. We're going to monitor the comments. We're going to monitor what's going on with this team. We're going to keep gathering up the information and keeping you Locked On Reds every single day.
If Fernando Cruz is old in baseball terms, we are ancient in baseball terms.
Yeah, isn't your walk-up music the ice cream truck music?